The Gemara on top of Gimel and Aleph begins. Tanya, we learned in a Brayso, Rabbi Nassan, Omer Rabbi Nassan says, "Ba'kodesh haseich neisach shecher LaHashem." In the Kodesh, you should give this libation to Hashem. Bishnei nisuchen hakasam medaber. The Torah is discussing two types of libations. Echad nisach hamayim. One is the water libation, ve'echad nisach hayayin, and one is the wine libation. Ask the Gemara, Ema tarvayu de chamra. Well, maybe they're both talking about wine. Says the Gemara, Im kain, if so, lichtov kra, the pasuk should have written, O hasech hasech, O nesach nesach. It should have written the same language of hasech hasech or nesach nesach. My hasech nesach. Why is it switch right to hasech nesach? Shmas mina. We learn from here, chad de maya v'chad de chamra, that one is water and one is wine. Says the Gemara, Elahad Itznan, but what about that which is written in the Mishnah, Nisach Hamayim Kol Zayin? That Nisach Hamayim in the Beis HaMikdash is all 7 days. Money. Who is this? Rabbi Yeshua. If it's Rabbi Yeshua that we said earlier, so Neima Chad Yoma. Nisach Hamayim should really only be 1 day. Because why? Rabbi Yeshua's opinion is that you start saying Mashav Haruach on the last day of Yantif. So therefore Nisach Hamayim should only be 1 day. Rabbi Akiva, it's Rabbi Akiva Trey Yomei. You have 2 days. Rabbi Akiva says you start saying Mashav Haruach, as we saw in Beis Mabez, on the 6th day of Sukkot. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, and if it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira who says that you start saying Mashav Haruach on the 2nd day, so Shisa Yomi. So you should only have 6 days of Nisach Hamayim. Basically, the Gemara assumes that there's a correlation between the Nisach Hamayim and when we start saying Mashav Haruach. So says the Gemara, La'olam, therefore Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Really, it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Vesvira like Rabbi Yehuda de Masnisen. And he holds like the Yehuda of our Mishnah, Ditznan, because we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer Rabbi Yehuda says, Belug hayemenasech kol shmona. In Lug, they would do the libations all 8 days, and therefore umapik rishon umayil shmini. And Rabbi Yehuda Meseira in this brayso where it says 7, he's going to take out the 1st day, and he'll add the 8th day in its place. And that's how you get 7. Ask the Gemara, Maishna rishon delo. Right? Well, I understand why in the 1st day you're not going to do it. Because when is the hint to water in the pasuk earlier from the way we learned out Maya Mem Yud Mem? So it's on the 2nd day of Sukkot. So Shmini Nami Kiramizi Mayim B'Shvi Hudramizi. Well, then how can you add the 8th day? Because the remez to Mayim was also on the 7th day. Basically, you can't just play a little trick and say, oh, we're going to take out the 1st day and add the 8th day, because the whole remez that Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira learned earlier was specifically from day 2 to 7. So Ella, we say rather Rabbi Yeshua he. Really, it was all Rabbi Yeshua, v'nisach hamayim kol sheva hilchsa gemirila. And the idea that nisach hamayim is all 7 days of Sukkot is what we call a hilchasa gemirila, which means it's a tradition, which we assume means a tradition is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai tradition all the way back from Moshe on Har Sinai. So Amar of Ami, Amar of Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yechunya, Ish Bakas, Beis Chorasan. Rabbi Ami says name Rabbi Yochanan, name Rabbi Yechunya, who was a man from the valley of Beis Chorasan. So he says there are 3 things that are halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Eser netios, the 10 plantings, meaning there's a halacha that if you plant 10 trees within a certain amount and then a base so those 10 trees have a special law that even though normally you have to stop working the fields prior to the Shemitah year, you don't just have to stop working the fields in the Shemitah year, you have to stop a little bit prior. The Eser Netios, if you have 10 trees planted within a Beisa, you're allowed to work them all the way up to the Shemitah year. That's the first halacha of Sinai. Arava. The second is the halacha of Arava, the fact that you used to walk around the Mizbeach on the Hoshana Rabbah on Sukkot. The idea that they used to walk around with just the Arava around the Mizbeach, that's also halacha of Sinai. V'nisach hamayim. And the idea of Nisach Hamayim, of water libations, all 7 days of Sukkot, halach l'Moshe Sinai. All of those are halach l'Moshe Sinai. So therefore, says the Gemara, the one who says that Nisach Hamayim is kol shiva is really Rabbi Yeshua, and it's halach l'Moshe Sinai. Says the Gemara now, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, ha'over lefnei hateva b'yom tov ha'achron shel chag. The one who gets up to daven for the Yamin on the last day of Sukkot, ha'acharon ma'askir, the last person he mentions Mashav Haruach, harishon eina ma'askir, but the first person, being the Baal Shacharis, he's not going to mention it. B'yom tov harishon shel Pesach, on the first day of Pesach, harishon ma'askir, the Baal Shacharis is going to mention Mashav Haruach, ha'acharon, but the latter one, meaning the Baal Musaf, eina ma'askir, is not going to mention it. Ask the Gemara, hi Rabbi Yeshua. Well, which Rabbi Yeshua is this? Again, Elin Rabbi Yeshua de Masnisin. If you're going to say it's the Rabbi Yeshua of our Mishnah, Ha'amar b'yom tov achron shel Chag hu maskir, he said point blank that on the last day of Chag you mention it, and that sounds like immediately on the last day of Chag, meaning even the Baal Shacharis is going to mention Mashav Ruach. Ella, rather, Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa. You're going to say it's Rabbi Yeshua the Brisa, Amar Mishas Hanachaso. But he says that when do you start saying Masharuach? From the time that you put down your lulav. Again, that implies the moment you put down your lulav, immediately you start saying Masharuach and you don't wait till Musaf. So says the Gemara of Isu, and furthermore, Hadatanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishrim ben Beseira, that which is on a Bryce, Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of ben Beseira, over Lifnei Ativa, B'yom Tov Achron Shel Chag, that the one who gets up to daven for the Yom on the last day of Sukkot, Achron Maskir. Again, the last one's going to mention it. So, hi Ben Beseira. Who is this Ben Beseira quoted by Rabbi Yehuda? Elam Rabbi Yehuda Ben Beseira. If it's Rabbi Yehuda Ben Beseira, Ha'amar B'sheni B'chag Hu Maskir. But he told us earlier that you start saying Masharuach on the second day of Chag. So now we don't know who this Ben Beseira is in this brisa, and we still don't know which Rabbi Yeshua said earlier that you have to start mentioning it specifically at Musaf. So answers the Gemara Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Nachman answers to Hey Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira. Let's say that both of these brises are Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira. So the first brise that calls him Rabbi Yeshua, the second brise that calls him ben Beseira, and they're saying the same opinion, are the same person. Zimnin de Kari la Bishmei. Sometimes we call him by his name, Rabbi Yeshua. The Zimnin de Kari la Bishmei da Abba, and sometimes we call him by the name of his father, ben Beseira. What's the distinction? Vahamek kame de lismachu. This one is before he got smicha. Before he got smicha, we're going to call him by the name of his father. And once after he got smicha, we call him by his own name. So therefore, both brises are really the same person. It's Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira, and sometimes we refer to him as Rabbi Yeshua, and sometimes we refer to him as ben Beseira. Fine. Period. The Gemara continues. Tana, it was taught. Betal ubaruchos lo chayvu hachamim lahaskir. When it comes to tal, the dew, and ruchos, the wind, the rabbis never required you to mention it. But if you want to mention it, then you're allowed to mention it. Ask the Gemara, my time, what's the reason that we don't obligate you to mention it? Amar Bechanina lefisha ein ne'et sarin. Bechanina answers because they don't stop. And since they don't stop, you don't have a specific time that you have to mention them. Ask the Gemara, vital minalan delo miatzer. Well, how do you know that dew doesn't stop? Because it says in the pasuk, Eliyahu Atishbi mitoshvei gilad al Achav, that Eliyahu Atishbi said to the wicked king Achav, Chai Hashem Elokei Yisrael Asher Amanati Lefanav, I swear in the name of Hashem, the God of the Jewish people, that I stand before him, that if there's going to be any rain or dew in these years, except according to my words, meaning he swears that the only time rain is going to come or dew is if he makes it happen. Viksiv, and then the pasuk says in the next parak, Leich hare el Achav, go tell Achav, that I'm going to bring rain on the ground. The ilutal lo ka'amarle, but he didn't mention that he's going to bring the dew, meaning he's in his shavua. He said, right, that the tal and the mother is going to come through me, but then he says that I'm going to bring the rain. So my taima, what's the reason that he only mentions the rain? Misham, because the lo me'atzer, because the dew doesn't stop. Ask the Gemara v'chimiachar de lo me'atzar. So Eliyahu had eshtibui lamali, right? So if the dew really never stops, then why did Eliyahu make it part of his shvu originally to say that I'm going to be in control of the rain and the dew? Answers the Gemara, hachi ka'amarle. This is what Eliyahu was saying. Afilu tal de bracha nami lo asi. That he's told him that yes, there will always be dew, but I will make sure that there's not a dew of blessing. It's going to be dew that's not as beneficial to your plants. It's not going to be a dew of blessing. Ask the Gemara, well, tal de bracha. So why didn't he then tell him that he's going to bring back the tal of bracha, the dew of blessing, the same way that he was going to bring back the rain? Answers the Gemara, mishum de lo minkara milsa, because it is not going to be recognizable. What the Gemara means that since Eliyahu knew that he could bring back the dew of bracha, but he felt that Achav wasn't going to be able to recognize it, and Achav was going to pick at him for that. I'm going to say that's not, there always was dew, and therefore mock everything that he did. He didn't mention the dew, even though technically there's a distinction between the two, the dew of blessing and the dew that's not a blessing, but rain is much more recognizable. But at the end of the day, what we see is that the dew, some form of dew, never stops, although there is a difference between a dew of blessing and dew that's not a blessing. The Gemara on top of Gimel and Beis says Ruchos minalan delome atzres. The Gemara asked, we had said on Gimel Aleph that the Ruchos also don't stop. So Ruchos minalan delome atzres. How do we know that the winds don't stop? Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says the Amar Kra, because the pasuk says Ki ka'arba ruchos hashemayim parashti eschem ne'um Hashem. The pasuk says in Zechariah that like the four winds of the earth, I spread you out, says Hashem. Maika Amar. Lahu, what is he telling them? Elim, if you will say, Hachik Hamar Lahu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, that this is what Hashem is telling Bnei Yisrael, that you are going to dwell and live in the four corners and the four ruchos areas of the world. Ihachi, if so, Kit Arba, the lashon of the pasuk was Kit Arba, like the four. Bit Arba mibayile. If that was the pshat, it should have said in the four corners that they're going to live. Ella hachikama, rather this is what he was saying. Kashem shiyef shalolam below ruchos, just like it's impossible for the world to exist without wind, kach yef shalolam below Yisrael, so too it's impossible for the world to exist without Bnei Yisrael. And that's what it means, Kit Arba ruchos, like the four ruchos, I'm going to spread you out, but Bnei Yisrael will always exist. And we see from this pasuk is that the world cannot exist without wind, and therefore wind never stops. Amar Rabbi Chanina says, Hilkach b'mos hachama, if since this is true, that again the winds never stop, but the rain does. So therefore, in the days of the summer, Amar Mashav Haruach Ein Machzirna. So if you say just the words Mashav Haruach, that the wind will blow, then we don't make you go back. Amar Mord HaGeshem. However, if you say the words Mord HaGeshem, that the rain should fall in the summer season when we don't want rain, so Machzirna. So we make you go back and repeat your Shemona Esrei. B'mos hageshamim, in the rainy season, it's the opposite. Lo Amar Mashav, if you left out the phrase that Hashem should bring the wind, in Machzirna, so we didn't make you go back, because again, the wind doesn't stop. Lo Amar Mord HaGeshem, but if you didn't tell Hashem that you want the rain to fall, so Machzirna, so again, then we make you go back. And says the Gemara below Od, not only that, Elafilu Amar Ma'avir Haruach Ma'avriach Hatal Ein Machzirna. So even if you say the phrase Ma'avir Haruach, that he should spread out the wind and Ma'avriach Hatal, he should like divide the dew, Ein Machzirna, so we don't make you go back either. Meaning again, those phrases are not really relevant because the dew and the rain, and the dew and the winds never stop. The important phrase is the phrase about the rain. The Gemara continues. It was tough. By the clouds and the winds, the rabbis did not make you mention it. But if you do come to mention it, masker, you're allowed to mention it. My time. Again, ask the Gemara, why do we not make you mention the clouds? Because again, the clouds don't stop and the winds don't stop. Below Me'atzri, ask the Gemara, they don't stop. Hatani Rav Yosef, but didn't Rav Yosef teach? Ma'atzar es hashamayim. The pasuk that we say in Kriya Shema says that Hashem is going to close up the Shemayim. What's he going to close them up for? Min ha'avim min haruchos. It must be referring to, says Rabbi Yosef, the clouds and the winds. It says the Gemara Ata Omer min ha'avim min haruchos. You're telling me it's from the clouds and the winds. Oveinu ela min hamatar. Or maybe it's really referring to the rain. Says the Gemara Kishu Omer v'lo yeh matar. The next words in the pasuk are that there won't be rain. Hari matar Amar. We see that rain is explicitly said in the pasuk. Hamani makayim v'ataras hashamayim. So what do I establish the words that Hashem will close the heavens? Min ha'avim min haruchos. It must be that He's going to close them from the clouds and from the wind. So we have a problem now because we just said that the clouds and the wind don't stop, but the Gemara is here saying that they do stop. So kasha ruchos aruchos. We have a question of the winds on the winds. Kasha av ma'avim. We have a question of clouds and the clouds. So says the Gemara, Av ma'avim lo kasha, the question of the clouds and the clouds is not a question. Haba charfi, haba afli. This is talking about the clouds before the rain, and this time the clouds after it. I mean, the clouds before the rain, those will never stop, and therefore you don't have to daven for them. The clouds after the rain, however, will stop, and therefore you have to daven for them. Ruchos haruchos lo kasha. Again, winds on winds is not a question. Habaruach mitzuya. This is talking about a ruach that's a regular wind. Habaruach sheina mitzuya. And this is talking about a irregular wind. Ask the Gemara, Ruach Sheina Mitzuya Chazia Lebeidari. Well, if a Ruach Sheina Mitzuya, an uncommon wind, is needed, it's Chazia, it's necessary Lebeidari for the threshing floor, so shouldn't we have to daven for it? Answers the Gemara, no, Efshar B'nafusa. It's possible to use a sieve, and therefore you don't need the irregular winds to do the winnowing, because the winnowing can be done with a sieve. Therefore, we say you don't have to daven for it. Period. Now the Gemara says the following: Tane was taught ha'avim v'aruchos shnios lemater. The clouds and the winds are like secondary to rain. What that means is that they're not like rain themselves, but they're secondary in that they provide a tremendous benefit along with the rain. So ask the Gemara, Hidami, how is this so? Amar ulavitim Yehuda, the basar mitra is talking about clouds and winds that come after the rain. Ask the Gemara, Lameimer Damal Yusahi. This is to say that again, wind and clouds after the rain are good. But didn't the pasuk say, Yitin Hashem es matar artzacha avak ba'afar? That Hashem is going to make the rain of your land like avak is like dirty, ashes or powder, ba'afar and dust. Right, so Hashem is going to bring this wind that's going to make it bad for you. Again, this is referring to winds after rain. So we see here in this passage that winds after rains are bad. It's going to spread all the dust and the dirt and the again all these bad things. So lo kasha, they say it's not a question. Hada asa nicha, hada asa razia. When it says that it's good is where it comes nicha, it comes calmly and softly. Hada asa razia, when it comes very strongly, then it's going to be bad. Again, hada ma'ala avak. And then the one where it's very strong, it's going to bring up all this dirty powder, this dust. That's not going to be good. This is where it's not. If it comes calmly, it's not going to raise all that dust, and therefore it's going to be good for the plants. So again, wind and clouds that are after the rain are good as long as the wind is a peaceful wind. But if it's too strong a wind, it's not going to be good. Yehuda says Zika de basar mitra kemitra. Right, wind after rain is like rain. Eva the basar mitra kamitra. The clouds after rain is like rain, meaning it's just as valuable. Shimsha the basar mitra kitre mitra. And sunshine after rain is like two rains, meaning sunshine after rain is really, really positive because again it helps the water be sinking in and making everything grow. Ask the Gemara lemute mai. Well, what's he coming to exclude? He just listed everything. So we say lemute gilya delaila. The shimsha de beni kirche. No, it's coming to exclude Gilead Delilah means that if it's like the light of the nighttime, meaning if the rain is in the evening when you can't have the sunshine afterwards, the shimsha de beni kirche, or if the sun is shining through the clouds, then again it's not going to be as beneficial because it can't really do what it needs to be doing. And those are not the positive ones. But again, the wind or the clouds or the sunshine are extremely good after rain. Now it says the Gemara, Amar Rava. Rava says, Maili talga leture kachamicha mitre la'ara. Rava says that snow, talga is snow. It's the same as sheleg, the top is straight for shin in Aramaic. So talga leture kachamicha mitre la'ara. Snow for a mountain is like 5 rainstorms for the land. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, ki l'sheleg yomar hu eretz v'geshem matar v'geshem mataros. Because the snow, he says, is like land, who eretz v'geshem, and rain matar, it's rain v'geshem mataros, rain plural, it's like rain and mataros, plural mataros. We see the word geshem there rain 5 times, geshem twice, matar once, and mataros is plural, that's 5. So we see that snow is like 5 rainstorms for the land. Mataros uzo, sorry. The Amar Rava, and Rava said, Talga Lature, again, snow is good for the mountains. Mitra razia leilane, strong rain is good for the trees. Mitra nicha lapiri, soft rain is good for the fruits that are on the ground. Urpila afila parditza de tute kala mahanile. So the Gemara says urpila is even for the seeds that are under the dirt. It benefits them. Ask the Gemara, my urpila. What does this mean, urpila? So uru pili, it's short for uri pili, let the seeds wake up, and it refers to like a light drizzle rain, meaning even a very, very light drizzle, that's even going to seep in and help the seeds that are in the ground.